My name is Kimberly, and this is my journey. I grew up in a quiet town and attended the local high school, where I met Jason. He was tall, charismatic, and always seemed to be the life of the party. We were young, but it felt like fate. Before long, we were inseparable, and we tied the knot at 20. Looking back, we were definitely too young, but in that moment, it felt like a dream come true. Jason was carefree, always full of big dreams and plans. I, on the other hand, was more grounded, focused on securing a stable future. We seemed to complement each other, or so I thought. A few months after our wedding, I discovered I was pregnant with our daughter, Lily. It was an unexpected but joyful surprise. Jason was ecstatic, and for a while, it felt like everything was falling into place. We were a young couple, excited to start our family. But soon, cracks began to appear. Jason's carefree nature started to feel more like neglect. He was constantly chasing the next thrill, never satisfied with what he had. Meanwhile, I was working hard, trying to keep everything running smoothly for Lily. He loved her, but his focus was often elsewhere. One night, after putting Lily to bed, I sat down with Jason in the living room for a serious conversation. I needed to talk about his spending habits and lack of focus. It was a conversation I dreaded, but it was necessary. "Jason, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's going on, Kim?" he replied, not taking his eyes off the TV. "I'm really worried about how things are going," I said. "We need to be more responsible, especially with Lily now." Jason shook his head. "You're always stressing about the future. Why can't we just enjoy the moment?" "Because the moment is falling apart, Jason." I raised my voice. "We're barely making ends meet, and you're out buying things we don't need and planning trips we can't afford." After another heated argument over one of his spontaneous purchases, I made the painful decision to end our marriage. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the best choice for Lily and me. I wanted her to grow up with stability, not uncertainty. The following weeks were rough. Jason moved out, and I filed for divorce. He wasn't happy, but he agreed to joint custody and child support. It was a tough transition, but I felt a sense of relief. Raising Lily on my own wasn't easy, but it was fulfilling. She was my world, and I was determined to give her the best life possible. I found a job, and we settled into a new routine. Over time, Jason and I learned to coexist. He visited Lily from time to time and made sure to pay child support. It wasn't the life I had imagined, but it was a life that worked. When Lily turned 18 and got accepted into law school, I wanted to celebrate her hard work. I was so proud of her. I decided to host a special dinner and invited Jason, her father, to join us. I called him, and he seemed genuinely pleased to be invited. "Hey Jason, it's Kimberly. Lily got into law school, and I thought it'd be nice if you came to dinner," I said, keeping the tone light. "That's awesome, Kimberly. I'll be there," he responded. On the evening of the dinner, I was a bit nervous. I wanted everything to be perfect for Lily. I cooked her favorite dishes and carefully set the table. When Jason arrived, he looked surprisingly put together, dressed nicely and carrying a small gift. Lily came down the stairs, beaming when she saw her dad. "Dad, you came." "Of course. I wouldn't miss it," Jason said, giving her a hug. "And I brought you a little gift." Lily unwrapped the gift to reveal a shiny new smartphone. "Wow, thanks, Dad," she said, grinning ear to ear. Dinner went smoothly, and the conversation flowed naturally. Jason seemed to be doing well, talking about his new job and his big house. I was happy for him, especially for Lily's sake. "So, Kimberly, you haven't changed a bit," Jason remarked, glancing at me. I gave a small, awkward smile. "Thanks, Jason. You seem to be doing great." "Yeah, things are good. Got a great job, a nice house, life's treating me well," he replied. After dinner, Lily announced she was going out with friends. "Thanks for dinner, Mom and Dad. The phone is amazing. I'll see you both later," she said before heading out the door. Jason and I were left alone, the house suddenly quiet. I started clearing the table, and he helped without saying much. We worked in silence for a while, and then he spoke. "Kimberly, I've been doing some thinking," he said, his tone serious. "About what?" I asked, not looking up from the dishes. "About us, about Lily, about everything," he said, setting down the dish he was drying. "I miss what we had. I miss you. I want to try again." I froze, my heart racing with a mix of emotions. "Jason, we've been through a lot. Not all of it's good. Why now? Because I've realized what I lost. I want to be a better man. For you, for Lily, he said, his voice filled with sincerity. I hesitated. All right, Jason. Let's take it slow. See how it goes. A smile spread across his face. Thank you, Kimberly. You won't regret this. We finished cleaning in quiet companionship, each of us lost in thought. The idea of starting over felt strange, but also exciting. That night, we stayed up talking, sharing stories, laughing about old memories. It was a big decision, but I was willing to give it another try. We got remarried, this time in a simple ceremony at City Hall, with just Lily and Jason's older sister, Margaret, present. It wasn't extravagant, but I hoped this time would be different. Moving into Jason's large house was an adjustment. It was much bigger than my old cozy home. The house felt grand, with spacious rooms and tall windows. Jason seemed happy to have me there, and for a while, things felt good. I decorated, trying to make the place feel like home. A few days later, Lily came to visit. She was excited to see us back together, and we sat in a living room catching up on her life at college. So how's law school going? Jason asked. It's tough, but I love it. I'm learning so much, Lily replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I'm really proud of you, sweetheart. You're going to be an amazing lawyer, Jason, I said, giving her an encouraging squeeze on the shoulder. Thanks, Dad. It's great to see you two together again, Lily said with a smile before heading out. Once she left, Jason and I settled onto the couch to talk about our future plans. We discussed potential trips, maybe heading to the mountains. It was nice to make plans together again after everything that had happened. But soon, I began noticing something odd. Jason hadn't been adding to our joint account. It started off small, so I decided to bring it up during dinner one evening. Jason, I've noticed you haven't been contributing to the account. What's going on? I asked, trying to keep my tone calm but concerned. He looked up from his meal, his expression darkening slightly. I've been having some money issues, Kimberly. I'm handling it. Money issues? Why didn't you tell me about this before? What's really going on? I probed, feeling uneasy. It's nothing major. Just some things I need to sort out, he said, avoiding eye contact. I wasn't convinced, but I let it slide for the moment. Over the next few months, however, I noticed him posting pictures of expensive cars on social media and buying new gadgets. It bothered me, but I didn't want to stir the pot. I hoped it was just a phase and that he'd get things back on track. Then one day, I found a receipt for a luxury car rental tucked into his jacket pocket while I was tidying up. My heart sank. I couldn't ignore it any longer. That night, I confronted him. Jason, we need to talk, I said, holding up the receipt as he walked in. What's this? He glanced at it, then shrugged. It's just a rental, Kimberly. No big deal. No big deal. I repeated, my frustration growing. We're supposed to be saving, not spending on fancy cars. I work hard, Kimberly. I deserve to treat myself sometimes, he said defensively. I get that, but we have bills to pay. We need to be responsible with our money, I said, trying to stay calm. I've got it covered, okay. Don't worry about it, he said, brushing me off. Over the next few months, the same pattern continued, new gadgets, flashy clothes, and more car rentals. Every time I brought it up, Jason reassured me he was managing everything. But our bank account kept dwindling. For 2 years, I tried talking to him about our finances. Each time, he promised everything was under control, but the account balance kept dropping, and I was working overtime just to make ends meet. It was becoming harder to ignore the widening gap between us. Then, one day, I received a call from my brother. Mom had passed away. She lived in the same city as Lily. I was in shock. I told Jason, and we made plans to take the train. The journey was long and quiet. I was lost in my grief, weighed down by memories. When we arrived, Lily was waiting for us at the station, her face pale and her eyes swollen from crying. We embraced, finding comfort in each other's presence. The funeral was simple, attended only by close family. My brother Tom and I handled everything without drama. It was what Mom would have wanted. As I stood at the service, I realized Jason was nowhere to be found. I tried to stay calm, but my worry grew. I turned to Lily. Have you seen Dad? I asked quietly. She shook her head, looking just as confused. No, Mom, I haven't seen him since we got here. I felt a mixture of frustration and disappointment. This was classic Jason, disappearing when I needed him most. But I pushed those feelings aside and focused on the task at hand. Jason finally showed up after the ceremony, but by then, I was too exhausted to ask where he had been. Later, we gathered at Mom's house for the reading of the will. It was a small group: Tom, Lily, Jason, a few close relatives, and the family lawyer, Mr. Harris. He opened the envelope and began reading. "To my daughter Kimberly, I leave the house and all its contents," Mr. Harris read aloud. "To my son Tom, I leave my savings and any remaining assets." I tried to absorb the weight of it all. The house would be a lot to manage, but it was full of memories. I couldn't imagine selling it. I glanced at Tom, who seemed fine with the arrangement, and gave him a quiet nod of agreement. Out of the blue, Jason stood up. "We need to sell the house. It's too much for Kimberly to handle on her own," he said, his tone sharp, almost demanding. I stared at him stunned. "Jason, what are you talking about? The house is mine according to the will." "Exactly, it's your house, so we should sell it and split the proceeds," Jason insisted, his face reddening. "No, Dad," Lily interrupted, her voice firm. "I lived here with Grandma during college. I'm planning to stay here." Jason dismissed her with a wave. "Lily, this is an adult matter." "This is ridiculous," I snapped. "You're talking about selling my mother's house like it's just another asset to cash in." "It is an asset, Kimberly, and as your husband, I have a say in what happens with it," Jason retorted, crossing his arms defensively. Lily stood up and glared at him. "Dad, I'm studying law, remember? Inherited property isn't part of a spouse's estate. You don't get a say in this." Jason's face turned beet red with anger. "Don't talk to me like that, young lady. This is a family matter, and I'm part of this family." The room grew still, everyone's gaze fixed on us as Jason laid down his ultimatum. "If you don't sell the house, I'll divorce you." A wave of shock swept over my relatives, while my own heart plummeted. Anger and a sense of betrayal surged within me, but I stood firm. "Fine, Jason. We'll discuss it when we get home," I said, my tone calm, though inside I was seething. The following morning, we made our way back to Jason's house. He remained silent throughout the entire journey, the tension between us palpable. I busied myself with my phone, trying to escape the heavy atmosphere. That's when I came across something that made my stomach drop: a video Jason had posted. In the video, he stood beside a lavish funeral arrangement, speaking about his deep grief for my mother. The comments overflowed with sympathy, and the video quickly gained traction. The problem? Jason hadn't even been at my mother's funeral. He'd been at a different service across the cemetery, recording himself by the coffin of a wealthy businessman. The hypocrisy was infuriating, and I could hardly stomach it. I glanced at Jason, letting my disdain show. "You're in for a surprise when we get home." He flashed me a smug grin. "So you've decided to sell? Great. We'll make some money off it. I'm thinking of using it to buy a new car." I said nothing, simply shaking my head and staring out the window, my mind in turmoil. When we arrived at Jason's place, a surprise awaited him. His older sister, Margaret, was sitting at the dining table. I had called her earlier, knowing this was a conversation we needed to have. Jason froze the moment he saw her. His usual confidence crumbled. "Margaret, what are you doing here?" His voice was unsteady. Margaret shot him a stern look. "I'm here because Kimberly asked me to be. We need to talk, Jason. Sit down." Jason hesitated but finally complied, his discomfort evident. I could see the unease in his eyes. Taking a deep breath, I began. "Jason has been spending money recklessly, new gadgets, car rentals, you name it. And now he's pressuring me to sell my mother's house, even threatening divorce if I don't." Margaret turned to Jason, her face hardening. "Is that true?" Jason avoided her gaze, his voice defensive. "It's not as bad as she's making it sound." I couldn't hold back anymore. "Not as bad? You've been wasting money left and right while trying to force me into selling my mother's house. That's pretty bad, Jason." Margaret shook her head in disappointment. "Jason, when are you going to grow up? You've never stood on your own 2 feet. You've always relied on others, and now you're bullying Kimberly." Jason's face flushed with anger and shame. "That's not fair, Margaret. I've tried." Margaret scoffed. "Your best. The house you're living in isn't even yours. It's mine. I let you stay here out of pity, and you know what else? I've been paying child support for Lily, not you. You couldn't even care for your own daughter. You should be thankful for Kimberly not treating her like this. Her words hit hard, and I struggled to hold back my tears as I turned to Jason. My voice trembled with emotion. The house belongs to Lily. She's an adult now, and it's her inheritance. Suddenly, Jason stood up, his face bright red with fury. I don't care about Lily. I want half of the money from that house, or I want a divorce. My heart sank as I processed his words. This was it. I took a steadying breath, held back my tears, and reached into my bag to pull out the divorce papers I had prepared earlier. I handed them to him, my hands trembling. Here are the divorce papers. Sign them. Jason hesitated, then reluctantly took the papers, his hands shaking as he signed them. You're making a huge mistake, Kimberly, he muttered. No, Jason, I said, finding an unexpected sense of calm. The mistake was ever thinking you'd change. Jason stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. I remained where I was, exhausted but finally free. The weight of his demands had lifted, and I felt a strange peace. Margaret approached and placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Kimberly, thank you for everything you've done for him. And remember, you've got Lily. You'll get through this. After the divorce, I returned to my mother's house, where I found a peace I hadn't felt in years. The house needed work, but it was home, and it represented a fresh start. Soon, Lily graduated from college, married a wonderful man, and was expecting her first child. I was going to be a grandmother, and it filled me with joy. Life was slowly returning to normal. It felt grounded and peaceful, and I knew I was moving in the right direction. One afternoon, while I was in the garden pulling weeds, my phone rang. I wiped my hands on my jeans and answered, seeing Jason's name on the screen. Hello, I said, already bracing myself. Kimberly, it's Jason. I need to talk to you, he said, his voice desperate. What do you want, Jason? I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. I'm in trouble, Kimberly. My debts are piling up, and I need your help, he pleaded, panic creeping into his voice. No, Jason, I replied firmly. I'm not giving you any money. But Kimberly, we can try again. We can fix things. I need you, he begged. I couldn't believe the audacity. You want to get married again? Are you serious? Come on, Kimberly. We had good times. We can start over, he urged, trying to sound convincing. Jason, we're done. I've moved on, and you need to as well. I'm not marrying you again, and I'm definitely not giving you money, I said, my frustration rising. He sighed heavily. I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd want to help me. I've helped you enough. It's time you stand on your own, I said coldly. Fine, Kimberly. I see how it is, he said bitterly. Goodbye, Jason, I replied, ending the call. I stood there for a moment, letting it all sink in. I was done. Jason's problems were no longer my concern, and a wave of relief washed over me. I went back to my gardening, ready to focus on my future. My life ahead, one full of new possibilities, was all that mattered now. I was done looking back. It was time to move forward. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay stunned.